Okay, take one. Hopefully the only one. Nice. What? Was that exciting?
It was loud.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you are my mum, right?
Yes.
Solid. And I asked you to come up with a moment that has a before and an after. Is that right?
Yes.
That's right. What was it?
It was when the Labour Party lost the 2015 general election.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So let's start simple. Why was that significant to you?
So before that moment, I had hopes that we might win.
Yeah.
Being a Labour Party supporter, I also thought that if we didn't win, there might be a hung parliament, there might be some sort of result that I could work with, but I was very shocked because the coalition government that had been in place between the Tories and the Lib Dems prior to that election was replaced by a majority Tory Conservative government, and I was shocked that that could happen in a moment of austerity, and I was very, very worried for what that would mean.
Right, I see. So that's when you joined the party, and since then things have escalated somewhat. Can you talk me through a little bit how that's happened and what your position in the party is today?
Yeah. So I just got involved in a very small group of branch Labour Party members who meet once a month in this ward, so we're in Cazenove Ward in Hackney. And one of the members was the branch secretary, and she's a neighbour of ours who you know well, Laura, and I think she saw that I was the sort of person that would get organised, write emails late into the night and make sort of things happen here. In Cazenove we had no Labour councillors at all. There were 3 Lib Dems in place, and 2 other branch members, Sam Pallis and Anthony McMahon, were also putting themselves forward.
There hadn't been Labour councillors in the ward for quite some time,
like 20
right?
years.
20 years, yeah.
In this particular ward in Hackney, obviously the ward, the borough overall is very Labour.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, we have an incredibly supportive kind of community around our branch, and we put ourselves forward, and it was quite a terrifying day because we had to sit for a long time whilst they basically interview all the candidates for various wards, and Cazenove was quite a long way down the list. I finally went up very nervously, did my sort of scripted speech, and then had to take questions which I thought I'd answered too quickly, and came out feeling not sure I'd really done enough to get selected, but the branch selected all 3 of us, so we were quite emotional and very excited.
Yeah.
And that was just the beginning of an incredibly long winter and endless campaigning and door knocking, and really just trying to let people know that we were putting ourselves up there, you know, to be candidates for this ward.
So
and we to be honest, for 99% of that period did not think we would get elected.
Yeah, I mean 20 years, 20 years plus, that it seems, you know, almost insurmountable. But I remember that period of time, it seemed like I think a large amount of I learned a lot about campaigning.
We had snow at least 3 times.
Yeah. But so a lot of it involved door knocking and brochuring, or leafleting, sorry. And then I remember this all culminated on polling day, which is probably, it would have been, was it May 6th?
May, I don't remember. Yeah, that
it was.
Could have been.
I'm pretty sure
early May.
It was early May. So pretty much this time 2 years ago. Yeah. How funny. And I remember that day. It was non-stop. I remember I was in sixth form at the time, and I had like 3 lessons in the day, and I would go back and forth from school to door knocking, and I think I checked my phone at the end, and I'd done 40,000 steps and 40 floors, and I went home with a fever at the end of it.
Yeah, you were amazing.
My girlfriend at the time lasted longer than I did. It was very, very cool. But
yeah, I think she went out with Diane Abbott in the end.
Yeah, but there was I feel like that day was really a little microcosm of essentially that whole year, just the intensity at which you guys had worked to achieve this thing, and eventually you found out the result.
Yeah. Well, so I suppose two things to say. So in addition to door knocking and leafleting, there was just a whole process of kind of actually getting to know who was in our neighbourhood, and the kind of different community groups. There are quite a lot of advocates for different things, whether it's greening the borough, or there are faith groups, there are interfaith groups, there are so many different kind of conservationists, people that would like to do more development, just so many different groups within the ward that we got to know. And then we had to kind of sort of set our pledges, so we had to kind of understand what the Mayor of Hackney was wanting to do, what would be in the manifesto. So there was quite an exciting day when we sort of launched the manifesto, with Diane Abbott and Sadiq Khan came. And then it all culminated to election day, and that was a grueling day, but that it didn't stop there, because then there was the count. And there's a process of sort of overseeing and monitoring the count, and essentially people looking at you with kind of, if not this time, maybe next time kind of faces, when you're absolutely exhausted and
abysmal
and hopeful. Yeah. And also, I guess just because I was also so new to it all, I didn't really understand how the whole process worked. So when it came to finding out the results, there was a moment just prior to getting the results where I was warned by one of my branch member friends that I probably hadn't made it, that, from looking at the count and overseeing the count, didn't look too good. I also saw that some of my colleagues in who had gone for other wards that we didn't actually ultimately gain, I saw that they had been disappointed, and I felt sort of devastated for them, because I knew how much work they'd put in and had hoped, for them. And I was sort of preparing myself for bad news, and then had extremely good news that all three of us had been elected, and by quite a substantive set of votes. And so I burst into tears.
Yeah,
in a graceful.
Just about to ask. And what was that moment
like? In a graceful way, yeah. I was extremely emotional, and I saw Laura, who'd been there from the start, also very emotional, and the mayor go over and give her an enormous hug, which and I seem to remember various people hugging me, and I think I told you not to come.
Yes.
Because I thought, well, it would be a long and disappointing day, potentially. And then, of course, I was like, why didn't, what a shame. But, that it was nice, to be able to go home and sort of pass on that news.
Yeah. You learn you've got this new position, this new job, you're working at the Hackney Town Hall. And how long were you actually going into the office before the stay-home order was released?
It was about 2 weeks, something like that.
2 weeks in the office at your new job, and suddenly everything's flipped on its head.
Yeah.
How would you say your experience becoming a cabinet member has been affected by the current events?
Oh yeah, at every level. And there's been a process, I guess, through COVID of submitting papers to parliamentary inquiries. So there's one around education and children's services that we're working on just now. There's been one that I just kind of looked at very quickly this week, women and equality. And then there's been a meeting of sort of the London councils where I was also able to raise questions around concerns around sort of the fragile childcare market that we're experiencing at the moment. There's a lot of anxiety about whether we'll still have the same level of childcare provision when we come out the other side of this crisis that we have at present. How we're going to attend to our most vulnerable, the sort of mixed messages between stay home, but also we want our most vulnerable and our children on educational health and care plans to come into school where they can still be supported. Massive concern about the education gap and how that's going to affect those people that are already sort of perhaps left behind at times by the system as it stands, and how we the disproportionate sort of loss of life amongst our BAME community and our older people, questions around isolation, the list goes on and on. So there have been really serious moments of inquiry and debate and discussion that I could not have predicted, I suppose, when I was excitedly running into the town hall that first kind of couple of weeks, figuring out where my desk was and where I could kind of file my papers, and you know, a real sort of fast and furious introduction into political life. But yeah, again, as before, it's the sort of the community side and the kind of the real life, I suppose, impact of what's going on that fascinates me most. And I've been kind of grateful to parents that have come to me to share their concerns and to try and help, and you know, get frustrated with them if I've been unable to help, and to be really pleased for them if either through support that myself or a colleague has given them, or through their own persistence that they've kind of got what they needed. So there's the reward. But yes, I also found that my casework moved from being perhaps questions around a housing repair to, you know, on one particularly sort of difficult day, domestic violence and death management, and that, you know, how could I ever have known that would be where I would be. But you know, there are incredible colleagues and officers who have worked so quickly to try and support the people that have come to me for help in those situations, that I've just been in awe, really, at how much everyone's been trying to get us through this crisis. And there's been incredible sort of volunteer work and community work.
You talk about community. I mean, we live, you know, on an estate, and every Thursday, just seeing everyone come together and seeing, you know, everyone through the different windows, just for 2 minutes of the day, everyone comes out and it's all smiles. And I think that's just, again, it's a microcosm of what the community around here and around the world has been able to do. You know, in Italy, you know, weeks back, singing the anthem and singing these beautiful songs with neighbours down the streets, you know, during the worst of times. It's quite breathtaking. So not wanting to get too far away from the moment, 2015, the election. We talked a lot about after and not so much about before. And so I just thought we could round off with a few questions. I was wondering if you can remember a particular time where you first became aware of politics. It's going back before 2015 when you decided to join the Labour Party.
Yeah.
But before even then, I can remember being very young and you teaching me what socialism is. And I just wonder if you had a moment or a memory where you can remember making those distinctions between different political parties and even what the two-party system is. And I just wondered.
So I guess both my parents worked in education. So my dad worked in further education. He was an A-level teacher. My mum worked in primary school, and prior to that, nursery setting. So she was my nursery teacher and then my primary teacher. So I'm very, very happy childhood. In fact, I've got 3 sisters, and one of them is a sort of secondary school teacher, and one of them works in special educational needs. So quite engaged in education, and I'm very interested in educational campaigns right now, particularly the NEU campaign around sort of not going back to schools and children not going back to schools until they're safe. But my sort of earliest sort of political memory was my parents following sort of manifesto pledges around how it may or may not support education and their role as teachers.
I think that's a really nice place to leave it. So I'll ask you one more question. What's your favourite food?
Oh, well, I would have said apple pie, but given you made lemon drizzle cake today, I'm going to go with lemon drizzle cake.
Lemon drizzle's pretty good. It was pretty good.
Basically, my favourite food is whatever you've made.
Nice, I like that. That's a good answer.
Does that mean you'll keep baking?
For sure. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
Yeah. We went a bit long there.
Yeah, how long was that?